All right, welcome in everybody. We're live. I'm back on home turf. Ross, you are on home turf this week as well. We're going to be traveling next week. We both shared our travel plans. We're going to take this show on the road next week from opposite ends of the country. But today you are in Chicago and I am back in my home in Des Moines. Feels like a little home field advantage, maybe a little home field advantage for the Chicago Bears as well. Maybe we'll get into that. I don't know. But how you feeling? How did Leicester do last week in my stead?
My guy Lester was amazing as always. I think he broke even, but he won as a gracious host. Was absolutely amazing, even though we couldn't move the board around. But it was great to be back with Lester again, and him and I go way back, about 7-8 years now. So it was awesome to be back in the saddle with him.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job. He said, "Give me some tips." And my tip to Lester, if he's listening, is pick winning bets.
Yeah,
That's your tip, man. The ones that you won on, those were good. The ones that you lost, improve on those. Not
yep.
so good.
Yep.
I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough, particularly at this time of year because the books are pretty locked in. Get that early advantage. You look at some teams that are this week anyway. You look at how they're doing against the spread. See if you can maybe gain a little advantage there where the books are late catching up. So many of these matchups where teams are bad against the spread, they're playing each other. Right. And then so many of them are just kind of like around 500, as you'd expect, like that. Most teams are going to just be around 500 against the spread. So it's like, I can't pull any real fun advantages out of that either. So, the boards are what they are. I think there's some fun bets here today. So I'm excited to see where you go with your first bet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tricky week because we've got a lot of bye games this week. We've got a lot of games in the noon slate, the noon/1 p.m. slate, and then only 2 games in the later slate. I'm actually going to go to an NFC North game, but it's not the Bears game. It's going to be the Packers versus the Lions, and I'm going to put an orange chip on the Green Bay Packers to cover that 3.5 spread today. I think that this is a game where the Packers are going to. I think they're going to go on a little bit of a run here. As much as I hate to say it, because we all hate the Green Bay Packers, but I think that everybody's counting them out right now, and I think that this is when they kind of go on a little bit of a run. The Lions are absolutely awful. They're dreadful defense. They just fired their secondary coach this week after giving up a ton of points and a ton of yards to the Miami Dolphins, and I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to move the football indoors on the road today against the Lions, and I think they're going to cover that spread 3.5.
I disagree with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a blue chip on the plus 3.5. But here's what I'm going to do is I think I agree with you with points. In Detroit, they're at home. They can score points. And so I'm gonna put an orange chip on the over.
Nice.
I think 49.5 is a fine line, but I think this game has the potential to go way over. Okay. Rodgers gets it going. Goff can score some points at home. Control. You won't have to worry about weather, right? I think there's points to be had in this one. We know that Detroit doesn't have a defense, but they have shown the ability to score and try to come back in games. So I like this over quite a bit. I almost hate putting a full bet on an over, but that's some of the lines I like best are over bets this week. So that's where I'm going here. Why don't you go to your next game? I just used 2 bets up, so why don't you go to your next game?
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with that. I mean, listen, it feels like almost every Lions game this year has hit the over. So I definitely agree with that. My next bet, I'm going to go to that Jacksonville game against the Raiders, right? I just don't think the Raiders are a very good football team right now. Josh McDaniels looks a little bit in over his head again. And they have to go on the road to Florida against the Jaguars. And I know I bet on the Jaguars a lot this year, but I'm going to put a blue chip on the Jaguars to cover that +2 spread. I just don't know how they're dogs at home against a team that's not very good, in my opinion. I just think that the Raiders didn't even score a point last week, in New Orleans. And all of a sudden, they're going to be favorites on the road. I'm not buying it. I got to take the Jaguars at home. I think Travis Etienne has a huge game today once again.
Yeah, I like that bet. I might join you. I actually, I like the over. I think there's going to be points in that one. I don't know. I'll join you there with in that game. I'm going to have a full bet on your future NFC North champion Minnesota Vikings. 3 points. I wish it was 2.5. But 3 points on the road against what I think is not a very good Washington Commanders team. Again, we're at the point of the year where the Vikings are a good football team. Like,
Mhm.
they've established that they're a good football team. Are they a great football team? No. But like, are they a good football team? Absolutely. They've got weapons. They've got a new acquisition in their tight end, TJ Hawkinson, right? Like, if they can't go on the road and take care of business against Washington, then this
Yep.
team doesn't deserve anything, right? And so to me, that this game looks very obvious to me that the Vikings are the better squad. 3 points is just, it's not enough. It's not enough for me. So I'm going to take the 3 points with the Vikings here.
And to kind of double up on that, I'm going to put an orange chip. This is a game that I love the over on that 43.5. I think both offenses are going to be able to put some points up today. I think Taylor Heineke is a very frisky quarterback, and he can definitely get out there and move around in the pocket and scramble around and get some points up. Kirk Cousins coming back to Washington again, right? Where he was, where he started his career at. I think that both teams are going to be able to move some points today, move the ball today and put some points on the board. So I love the over in this football game.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Mhm.
Of course, we're setting up saying there's going to be a bunch of points and
Yeah.
everything's going to be defensive struggle today.
I
We
know.
know that now that we've all locked in.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think the Falcons are frisky.
Mhm.
Um, this is an AFC NFC bet for me,
Mhm.
and I know that the Chargers have not been very good. I've been losing money on the Chargers. So those of you that want to follow me and trends, don't follow this. But there's so many just good AFC teams and not so many good NFC teams. To me, this is just an AFC NFC statement for me. But I'm also I think there's points.
Yeah.
I was at the Falcons game last week. That tons of points given up to Carolina,
Mhm.
who's not a good football team, right? So I've got the over and I've got the Chargers covering here. I think Herbert has to kind of come alive here and score some points. So I'm doubling up on this game, but I'm splitting it between the Chargers covering that 3 and the over 49.5.
I am completely in agreement with you. I'm going to put a blue chip as well on the over for that football game. Your first place Atlanta Falcons
They are. They are.
right now are a home game, right? And thanks to DJ Moore with that really weird phantom ripping off his helmet. Was he in the field of play? Was he not in the field of play last week or whatever? They won that football game, but there was points in that football game, and I think we're gonna have I have Marcus Mariota coming up in prize picks, but I think he's going to be able to scramble around today and run around. I love the points and I love the over in that football game at 49.5. Absolutely.
Should we talk about the Bears?
We should talk about the Bears.
Yeah. I like the Bears this week.
Yeah,
I,
there you
I
go.
I've got a little money line bet on the Bears this week.
Okay. Ooh.
Okay, like
Uh-huh.
I think they can surprise. Now I took them on the spread. 4.5
Mhm.
is too much. Hopefully you can still get that mark. I think it came down to 4, but um, I think that's too much. I think that this team defensively they could struggle. Sure,
Mhm.
like this team could just struggle to stop Tua. He's been very good. To me, Raheem Mostert could be lined up for a really big day, particularly with no Roquan.
Mhm.
But I think that this offense is starting to figure it out, and I think that they can start to hang with teams. And so if that number is above 3, like if you get the field goal, I think you take the points with the Bears. So to me, I like the Bears this week, plus 4.5. I'm running out of blue chips. Let's do it. Let's just do an orange chip on them
There you
because I
go.
feel pretty good about it. I think you like the points in this game, though.
I love the points in this game today. I'm going to put an orange chip on the over. It's a beautiful day on the lakefront here. I'm about 6 blocks away from the stadium. The sun is shining. It's about 60 degrees when it's going to be kickoff time. And I don't think both these defenses are very good. I think that both quarterbacks are going to be able to move the ball today. I imagine Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle being able to run wild out there. But I also think that Justin Fields is going to be able to put some points up at home. And I just think that 45.5 is way too low. And I'm going to take the over on this game today. I think that both offenses are getting into a groove, and we should be able to put some points up. It feels like it's been forever since we've seen the Bears at home. So I think they're going to show out and put some offense. Maybe a little Chase Claypool action today with his first game as a Bear.
Yeah, I like it. I'm gonna join you with the blue chip. I've got to at least put it on there. I agree. I don't know why. I'm just feeling so confident about points today.
Mm-hmm.
So that's dangerous if it's too much groupthink. But just feels like maybe the books have come down a bit with all of the good defense that has been played, and
Mm-hmm.
there are some good matchups here to maybe see some overs here. Let's see. Uh, I know I want to get a bet in on this 2.5 point Ravens game. So there's not a full field goal.
Yeah.
Again, AFC versus NFC. Ravens are a good football team. We like the Ravens. We think the Ravens are going to coast here to their AFC North championship. I mean, the Saints good? Do we know? I mean, like I know that they just won last week, but are the Saints actually a good football team? And do you believe in Andy Dalton? I don't know, man. Like to me, good football team from the better conference. Going on the road doesn't scare me. I get less than a field goal that I have to give up here in points. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to put a bet here, orange chip on the Baltimore Ravens to cover that 2.5.
Yeah, you talk about Lamar Jackson indoors, right, in the Superdome there, or whatever the hell they're calling it now, the Mercedes-Benz Dome. And I just feel like he's going to be able to run wild. And I think this is a statement game for the Ravens. They just got Roquan Smith, right? It feels like they're kind of all in. They're pushing their chips in, especially with the Bengals reeling right now. The Browns aren't a really good football team. The Ravens are going to say, listen, we are the class of the AFC North, and I think they're going to be able to take it to the Saints today. I liked it a lot. For me, I don't know how Seattle is a road dog against a Cardinals football team that I don't think is very good, that struggles to cover the spread, especially in the first half of these games. And so +2 on the road against Kyler Murray, who has probably been playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 all week, and he's yelling at Cliff Kingsbury in the sidelines. I think Geno Smith is probably the most improved football player of the year so far, and he's an MVP candidate. I think Pete Carroll's done an outstanding job. Kenneth Walker is a great rookie running back. I'm taking +2 Seattle. I mean, I'm going to put a blue chip on there, but listen, I think that they're going to be able to go in there on the road. I just think they're a better football team. I think this is a team that's going to host a playoff game potentially down the road. I just don't think the Cardinals are a good football team, and so I got to take the better team with that. I don't like them getting points on the road against the Cardinals.
All right, keep going. I threw a bunch of bets out, so you got more chips.
You hit me up yesterday. And you said that we needed a long shot of the
okay,
day.
yeah, right? let's go for it. Let's do it. Let's talk.
My long shot of the day has to go to PJ Walker and the Carolina Panthers +7.5 against a Bengals team that is just absolutely ravaged right now with injuries. They've got issues. I don't know who Joe Burrow is throwing the football to with Jamar Chase out. They looked really bad last week against the Browns on Monday Night Football. And I think this Panthers team is frisky, man. Like they've had some losses like that they've been in the games with. And I just think that +7.5 is way too big. I think Deontay Foreman is a really good running back. If you haven't picked him up on your fantasy teams yet, he's been out there. But I'm going to take an orange chip today for the Panthers to keep that football game close, +7.5. And I actually think they can win that football game today. That's my long shot bet of the week.
So your long shot, this is just a straight up bet. Like this is for the segment. You're gonna keep this. For your long shot, you're saying money line Panthers.
I'd say money line Panthers, absolutely. And I would, if you got really frisky, you can parlay that with like the Seahawks probably and get some really good plus odds out of it.
Okay, that's what we need to hear.
Yes.
I'm looking up the odds right now. Maybe. My app will cooperate here. Man,
if we did Panthers and Seahawks, right? You're looking at
I got +270 on the Panthers.
Yeah, you're looking at +680 odds if you parlay those two teams on the money line. I'm taking that.
Okay. I got a couple. Yes. I don't love parlays. I mean, parlays are invented by casinos to take your money. Like I get that. Yes, if you're a single game parlay guy and you want to bet on the Bears game, and we'll talk about these bets here in a minute, but we'll talk about from a betting perspective of building a single game parlay. For the Bears game, I really like Khalil Herbert over 40.5 rushing yards. I do like Raheem Mostert's rushing yard total as well. I'd like to go over on that because I think the Bears are going to struggle stopping the run game. It's not necessarily what the Dolphins want to do, but I think if they're smart, they're going to hand him the rock quite a bit. He's so fast. He's got a chance to break off a couple. 66 yards isn't that high of a total for a running back. He's been pretty good this year. And then I would probably the next bet that I like out of that Bears game enough here is actually Cairo Santos. God, I cannot believe I just said that. Cairo Santos over 1.5 field goals. Again, I think
Nice.
there's going to be points.
Yep.
And I think the Bears are going to be able to score some touchdowns, but I think they're going to move the ball. They're going to give him opportunities. He's been nails this year. He knows how to kick in that stadium. Single game parlay of those 3 bets is plus 750. So that's a pretty good line there.
I like it.
If you're feeling the same way I am about over unders this week, and you feel like there can be points to be had, okay, there is a way on most apps where you can go in and you can go to alternate lines, and you can move a slider, or maybe there's pre-selected moments here where you can make the over under be different amounts, and then the odds change with you. So if you believe, like we believe, that some of these games are going to be played at a higher number, you can actually move the line higher and you'll get a higher payout. So it's risky, but just for example, and I'm not saying go all the way to the right, to swipe. Don't swipe all the way right necessarily unless you're super confident. But that's what I looked at in terms of what are the payouts, the max payouts, and what are these max lines. And so the Chiefs have been playing games in high numbers. They're playing the Titans. Maybe the Titans can't hang with them. Maybe the Titans defense can hold them down a little bit, right? But the Chiefs can just score points at will. That's how good their offense is. Their defense has been better, so that's why you want to hesitate a little bit. If you can take the slider all the way on my app to 60.5 for the over/under, okay, it's a lot of points. But the Chiefs have played in 3 games so far this year that have gone over that mark. That if you were to bet that, that's plus 464.
Yeah.
Right. And if you want to back it down a little bit, obviously the payout comes back. But that's a little bit of that's a long shot bet, right? Like where you're getting plus odds on one game, on one thing to happen, but you're betting on points. Chargers Falcons, we like that, right? You want to slide that up, like you can get to plus 400. Being in like the low 60s, right? Packers Lions, we think that maybe that's scoring a lot of points today. Has the potential to do that. The Lions defense is atrocious. You've got a good quarterback on the other side. Maybe he figures it out. Lions have played a couple games that are in the high 60s or even over. You can slide that to the over there. You can get plus 400. Seahawks Cardinals. Both of these teams have played 2 games each in high amounts. Now they just played a couple weeks ago. It was 9-19. So like you can look at that and be like, okay, well, maybe the game script's the same, but they've both played 2 games each where the scoring was kind of outrageous. So you can slide those out. Now, again, I'm not saying slide them all the way over, but I'm just showing you as an example. If you do slide them all the way over, it's plus 414, plus 464, like in that range. So you can kind of take it down a little bit if you feel a little more comfortable, if you like those, and then you can stack them. And you can parlay them a little bit. So if you really believe in the points, it doesn't take much to bet them individually, and then maybe put a parlay on all of them hitting, and that would be a huge payout. I mean, you can stack that to a plus 7,000 pretty quick.
Yeah, even Bears Dolphins today to get another touchdown over that's the number at 45.5, taking it to 52.5, get you plus 215 odds. So I mean, if you think that there are going to be some points today on the lakefront, there you go. You get plus odds right there, just taking that line to 52.5.
So we were asked to maybe do a long shot, kind of put together a bet that might be kind of fun. That would be my advice. I don't know, just taking like the Titans to beat the Chiefs, in a money line. I mean, the Chiefs are just too good. Like you can't play that, right? So there's nothing that's just straight up on the board to take. You have to kind of do a parlay. You have to, or you have to kind of move the lines, right? Yep. And you have to kind of go that direction. Yep. I'm not going to take like, the Jets and the Titans money line parlay like that. That's just a little too crazy for me. I can't do that. But I can envision scenarios where I can build something out where I just need to hit one of them and it pays for the day. And if I hit 2 of them, I'm really profitable. And if I hit all of them, like I've had like a hell of a day kind of thing. So that's kind of how I built that out. Again, pick your game that you really like points in and you can slide it. and slide it to where you feel comfortable. Just kind of think about how the points might break out a little bit, right? Like 63 points is 9 touchdowns, right? So it's a lot. It's a lot of touchdowns, right? And there's probably going to be field goals in there. But that's one way to think about it. I had fun. I mean, I probably went down too much of a rabbit hole doing that today. And then I put a few bucks on it. I was like, you know what? I kind of like those.
Sure. And we're due for one wacky football game, right? I mean, it happens every single week, right? So you kind of look at the board and you see where can we get our wacky football game at? And to me, 2 games that's kind of stand out. If you're feeling a little bit of frisky here, Colts Patriots +5.5, right? Sam Ellinger, mobile quarterback, young guy. The Patriots have struggled this year to stop those mobile quarterbacks. If you're feeling a little bit frisky, you might take the Colts on the money line and take the over at 40.5. And then you look at Bills Jets. I hate teams that are getting are such heavy underdogs at home in a divisional football game. It usually, kind of doesn't work out that way. Jets +11.5 is a little bit interesting at home. They're a frisky football team. I know you're betting on Zach Wilson, who's been abysmal this year, and the Bills are the best team in the AFC, but that's something to take a look at.
Yeah, I did bet in PrizePicks, or not PrizePicks, on Tally site. I did take the Jets with the points.
Mm-hmm.
That's just too much in my opinion for a divisional game. So I agree with you there. Let's move on to PrizePicks. So if you guys want to join us, you probably should hit on PrizePicks, promo code Bears. That'll get you a deposit match, 100% deposit match still going on. So here's why you should follow us: is Ross is awesome at this because he's hit the 5 for 5 twice. When the 5 for 5 pays out 10x, and if you want to bet with me, I've cashed every single week but one. So it's a slower build for me, and you can see I'm behind quite a bit because Ross has 10x'd it twice. But overall, like if you were just betting with us the whole year, you would be swimming right now. Like we're about halfway through the year. I mean, I could lose the rest of the weeks and finish negative. That is true, but Ross can't. Like Ross has already proved that he's going to be profitable for the year because of hitting those 10x twice. So we've been pretty good at this.
We have been.
That's why you should hang with us. You should tail us, as Ross says.
Yes.
Which good way to say it. I didn't know that was the term. So why don't you start us off with my guy Justin Herbert?
Justin Herbert, big game today on the road, indoors against the Falcons. I just like his over today on the fantasy points. I think he's going to be able to go over 19.5. I think he has a huge game. They're coming off of a bye week, right? That he's rested. He's ready to put some points up today. I think they're going to be able to get the football to Eckler and the other weapons out there. I'm taking the over today on him. I just think he has a huge game, maybe 3 or 4 touchdown game, which gets him over 19.5 on the fantasy football score.
Yeah, you mentioned, I've got Geno Smith here and I've got Josh Allen here, 2 guys that are, in the conversation for MVP. I think it's Josh Allen's at this point, but Josh Allen, quarterback of the best team in the league, he's just kind of killing it. You get a prop here of 2.5 passing plus rushing plus receiving touchdowns. He's probably not going to catch one, but you do want that bump when he does run it in. So there's no like, oh man, he scored a touchdown, but he ran it. And I put the passing touchdown bet in over 2.5. You think, well, 3 touchdowns for a quarterback, that's kind of a big deal. He's done it every game but twice this year, right? And again, he's rolling. The other games, I think he had 2, right? So I mean, he's in this thing constantly to just rack up these gaudy stats. Your only worry in this game, in my opinion, with the Jets defense is solid. Don't get me wrong, but like, your worry if you're thinking about prop bets is maybe I don't want to go all in on Stephon Diggs because Sauce Gardner, the standout rookie, might be shadowing him a little bit, and Sauce Gardner's been really good. So Diggs and Gardner, you maybe want to avoid that matchup. But Josh Allen has proven he doesn't really care who he's throwing to. He's throwing darts all over the field. So I'm going to go over Josh Allen 2.5 touchdowns.
I like it. I'm going back to that Falcons game against the Chargers. Listen, Marcus Mariota his last 4 games. He's hit the over on this 31.5 rushing yards, 3 out of the 4 games, including 43 yards on the ground last week. I just think that when he's at home, when he's indoors, he tends to scramble a lot more. The Falcons, we know, want to run the football, want to keep that Chargers offense on the sidelines as much as possible. I'm taking the over today. I think he's going to be able to get that number fairly easily. I'm surprised it's still that low, but as long as they're going to have Mariota in the low 30s on the rushing yards, I'm going to hit that. I'm going to take that over every single time.
I'm gonna go. We're both gonna go to the Arizona Seattle game here.
Yeah.
I've got 2 Seattle bets, and I'll just hit them both together. Seattle quarterback Geno Smith, biggest surprise story of the entire year, in my opinion. Like, who saw this coming? I thought they were going to rebuild here. He's hit 2 touchdown passes in almost every single game this year. Like, he's a viable fantasy quarterback, for God's sakes. I don't understand what happened to Geno Smith. And Arizona's defense is not good. So, like, I think there's going to be points in this one. I think Geno Smith hits this. I think this is a good bet. I can't believe I'm saying that. Like, it surprises me, but Geno Smith, I looked at the numbers. I think it's only 2 games he hasn't hit the 2 touchdown passes. So
he's been awesome.
He's been great. Awesome. So why not ride it? I'll just hit the Kenneth Walker thing. We've been making money on Kenneth Walker since he took over. 72.5 yards. Again, it's not a very good defense. Pete Carroll came out this week and said, like, we haven't even hit full stride with him or something like that. Like, where they want to give him the ball more. This is Pete Carroll. This is the guy that loves to have a feature back and loves to pound the rock. I don't know, man. Like, I'm just, you guys made fun of me a little bit for kept betting Nick Chubb last week. That's because Nick Chubb bets keep cashing, right? So I'm going to keep Kenneth Walker bets. As long as you're not betting him, I'm going to bet him, right? Like, I mean, we'll just ride this until he says, no, he's going to be offensive rookie of the year. Yep. So let's just ride this into the sunset here. Kenneth Walker over 72.5.
Can we get this man a picture, please? He's been one of the outstanding rookies this season. Get him a picture on that board. I'm going to that back to that Seattle game that you just talked about. Kyler Murray, I'm taking the over on that plus half interceptions. Again, I just think that that's a very frisky Seattle defense. They've got outstanding rookies in that secondary. Pete Carroll, defensive guy. I think that they're going to be able to get at least one from Kyler Murray. This feels like he might have one of those little slight blow-ups on the sidelines. Again, we talked about it earlier. Seattle is a road dog, even though they're the better football team. I think that's very disrespectful to the Seahawks, and I think they're going to be able to win that football game today. And I think Kyler Murray is going to be able to turn the football over to get Seattle the win.
I love interception bets. Stick with you for the Rodgers bet.
Absolutely. Listen, the Lions stink. And their defense stinks, and they just fired their secondary coach, and they should probably fire their defensive coordinator, and they're probably going to fire their head coach at the end of the season. They just traded their best tight end. Aaron Rodgers has to get back on track here. He's got to get these receivers going. I know 258.5 is a big number. I don't care. I am taking the over on that. This feels like an Aaron Rodgers 300 yards day today. We saw what Tua did to them last week. The Lions, this is just a pitiful defense. I think Rodgers carves them up today.
Yeah, tough to argue that. I hate to put any money on Aaron Rodgers, but I understand where you're coming from. It's a bet against that terrible Detroit defense. We got 3 bets in this game today. We apparently like this game quite a bit. Look, Khalil Herbert, even in rushing carries last week, that's the one thing that you got to remember. He moved up to an equal split with David Montgomery in terms of carrying the football. He's averaging 6.2 yards per carry. Miami's a little better than most at stopping the run, but Dallas wasn't bad at stopping the run, and Khalil Herbert still got his. He got 99 yards last week. You only need 41 yards to win this one. Like, to me, this is, I don't know if they're going to keep giving it to you. Keep taking it. That's what I'm saying. Herbert, I don't know, baby Chubb. I'm not sure what we're going to call him, but he's been super efficient on those carries. 6.2. On the other side, this is a little bit less obvious. I do like Raheem Mostert a lot as a back. He's been getting the carries. Bears can't stop the run, man, and they just traded Roquan Smith. I agree with the trade. I think it was a smart trade. I like what they did, but if you're trying to improve your run defense, taking out a really fast linebacker is probably not the best way to improve it in the short run. And I think Mostert probably eats a little bit today. So I'm going to take the running backs with overs in this game. And you're going to finish this out.
I'm going to finish this out. Justin Fields over today, 220 and a half on the pass and rush yards. Listen, Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator for the Bears, has been putting in more design runs for Justin Fields. He looks outstanding. Last 3 weeks, he's had 60 yards on the ground last week, 82 yards the week before that, 88 yards the week before that rushing, and his passing yards are going up as well. So you put those two things together, I'm taking the over today. Like we said, beautiful day on the lakefront. I think there's going to be points today. Justin Fields is the second best fantasy football quarterback over the last 4 weeks. I think he continues that trend, and he's becoming a dynamic weapon in the NFL right now.
You going to the game?
I'm not going to the game. No, I wish.
Okay. All right. Well, final thoughts for today?
No, let's keep it going. PrizePicks has been extremely successful for us. Let's hopefully we get 2 5-for-5s today. And it sounds like we like a lot of points today. So hopefully it's an exciting day in the NFL and we get to see a ton of points today and hit some overs.
Yeah, I hope we're right, and I hope we're going to drink our own Kool-Aid, and we're going to see a ton of points. So makes everybody happier. So, all right, Ross, take care. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
All right, joined by Erik Smith of the QB List. Erik, my guy, we have similarities.
Oh no!
In our daily fantasy lineup. Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew? Happens every single week where the two of us see things similarly. Definitely some differences here, but before we get started, how did last week go? Did you school Lester on daily fantasy, and did you convince him, or is he a convert now?
I can't remember how his team did, but mine did cash. So, hey, I'll take it. Cashed in the big, $1 million lineup. So did not win the million, but I'll take a little profit. So
you wouldn't be here if you cashed that one, right?
You would have got a message from me for sure. So I had Tua and both Waddle and Tyreek Hill. That worked out pretty well, but I had a few duds that just lowered it just enough to, keep me employed for this week.
The lineup that I gave Lester that you guys covered on the show, I did fine. But it was Hurts and AJ Brown, and then I had I spent big money on Hopkins. So it was like a top 15% lineup, but it wasn't a big winner or anything. So, which is a kind of what I feel like I performed pretty well, but I don't get into the like big money cashes. So I need to kind of figure out what those people are doing and try to replicate that. But you sent me your list today and you said weird week. Why is it a weird week, Erik Smith?
Few reasons. We've got a lot of teams on bye weeks, so that never helps. We've got players that have just been traded from one team to another, so we don't know what their roles are like. There's a lot, just typical injury stuff as well. So there's a lot up in the air here. And then you just look at some of these matchups. Like, it was kind of hard for me to identify the high scoring matchup. I mean, even the Chargers, who we're all over here, like that offense has not been pretty at times. So you got the Bengals offense struggling. I think they would be one we would lean on this week. Like, there's just a lot of like Packers at Detroit. Like, do we feel good about playing the Packers? That would be a typical spot we would target them. So there's just a lot of up in the air this week. And it was hard for me to identify that game that I really wanted to hammer. And we both got the same one. So I don't know if that's good or bad.
I struggled with a little bit. I felt like Herbert's at a discount. And that kind of helped because, and actually you went with the cheap defense. I didn't want to try to score points on my favorite football team here. So you went with the cheap defense with the Dolphins. I understand why you would do that. But I couldn't do that. I actually went premium defense here, and I went with the Patriots because they're one of the better fantasy defenses around, and they're going against the team that has just given up a ton of points. They got an inexperienced quarterback. Like I just kind of felt like, you know what, I'm actually going to start with the premium defense there. I added Evan Ingram. I went back and forth between Ingram and Gerald Everett, who you took. So those to me are the two obvious bargain tight ends this week, right? And I didn't love the top end tight ends anyway, right? I mean, Kittle's on a bye, right? So I mean, you don't get some of the guys that you normally want to get. So I kind of started with that, and then that led me to take Herbert and pair him with Joshua Palmer, who is relatively cheap for a guy that's probably going to see a pretty high increase in targets today against a bad Atlanta defense.
Yeah, and I was waffling between Gerald Everett and Josh Palmer, so I think those are both awesome plays. I ended up going with Austin Eckler and Gerald Everett, just thinking Eckler's basically their wide receiver one, so let's lock in that elite running back production. And kind of tack on Gerald Everett, but Palmer was certainly in play. That was kind of my thought as well on that. Tight ends, they're rough because we don't have Kelsey in the slate. We don't have Mark Andrews in the slate. Kittle's on a bye. So yeah, it's like Zach Ertz is the top price tight end. So this is a week at tight end, I think, where you probably pay down. This is a good week to punt the position, but I just kind of felt like Gerald Everett, like it's just him and Eckler and Josh Palmer. There's not much else in that offense. So he should see a lot of work. But other than that, I mean, I really like Travis Etienne on the other side of this matchup. You like him as well. Chargers are still giving up like 6.1 yards per carry, which is insane. And Etienne, he looks like a heck of a player. So he's been getting it done. So we kind of had the same basis on that. Might be worth going through some of these other receivers. But I will say real quick, I put Deion Jackson in my flex. I think everyone is going to be playing him. He's only 5,000. He is the unquestioned, like we think, workhorse for the Colts this week with Jonathan Taylor hurt. I really did not want to play Deion Jackson because I think a lot of people are going to pick him, and I don't think it's an easy matchup in New England for them. But I kind of got stuck with that money left over, and he was the best option. So I would say this is a lineup where I would probably make a few variations off of it and try to get Deion Jackson out of there, just because I think a lot of people are going to pick him, and it could be like 12 fantasy points. Like he's no lock to dominate this matchup.
Yeah, that's interesting. You were talking about ETN. They're playing the Raiders today. But I think it's a heck of a matchup, right? Yeah, yeah. And so and ETN has less competition now, right? So James Robinson was traded away. So I liked that. Then maybe that's a little too obvious, right? Maybe a lot of people are on that pick as well. But that one felt really good. That was an early building block. Like you said, do you believe in the Packers? Their offense has been struggling. Maybe I don't believe in the Packers, but I believe in how bad the Detroit Lions defense is. Yeah. And so I did want to take somebody. Dobbs is the guy that seems to be maybe the biggest ceiling potential, the highest ceiling potential there. Like he seems like he's probably due for a big game. He's been close to a couple big plays, and if you're not going to get the big plays against Detroit, you're probably never going to get them. So it felt like a good place to play him. Yep. And then I doubled up on my Vikings wide receivers. And so maybe that tells me I should go back and play Kirk Cousins instead of Herbert, and maybe save money even on Herbert. I don't know how much Kirk Cousins costs. But I don't love Washington's secondary. I don't think they're very good. I think Minnesota, in a weird way, I think this is an important game for Minnesota. I think that they need to go in and kind of establish themselves as a legitimate NFC contender, and going on the road and beating up a bad football team is a way to do that. Going and beating a good football team is always a good way to do that. But like, you go on the road and convincingly beat a team that you're better than, that is a good way to say like, hey, yeah, we're serious. And if they're going to do that, I think they do that through the air. I think they do that leaning on Jefferson and Thielen. So I took both of them.
Yeah, no, I love that as well. I think that would be a good pivot if you wanted to get off of Herbert. So I'm on board with that. Ignore everything I said about ETN against the Chargers.
I wanted to make sure we're,
No, for sure. Hey, it's midseason. But that is an increase he's not in my lineup, but Cordell Patterson back for the Falcons this week. I think he's a nice play, but we'll get to that later. But I did want to get into Rondale Moore real quick. We talked about it on the Sit Start podcast this week. Ryan was pretty high on him, and Rondale Moore is interesting. We're kind of at the mercy of Cliff Kingsbury here, but when they actually play him in the slot, he's been a really good fantasy player. And when they play him outside, where you wouldn't think you would want to play your 5'7" receiver, he has not been a good receiver. So we're hoping that he plays him in the slot, because those have been his best games when he sees the majority of those snaps. So I think he's underpriced. We're just kind of at the mercy of Kingsbury. He was one I wanted to tout here because he's had some really up and down performances. And if you look at the snap share slot versus out wide, it really reflects that. So please, Cliff, play Rondale Moore where we would like you to play him.
Well, it just seems like Kyler Murray has gone back so quickly to hey, DeAndre Hopkins is back. I'm going to just throw it exclusively to DeAndre Hopkins, which has been fun to profit off of that, right? Like, I mean, those are some of the prop bets that I've put in lately. So that's helped quite a bit. We both have a couple Bears in the lineup. Might as well round it out here. You had Darnell Mooney, who, like, all right, man, like, okay, like you tell me why you're confident enough to put Darnell Mooney in your lineup. And I put Khalil Herbert because I think it looks like he's at an even timeshare now. Maybe he's too expensive for a timeshare back, but he's an explosive play waiting to happen. He needs to break, if he breaks one for a touchdown, obviously, if, but
Yeah.
he's a guy that can do it. He's going to get the carries now. 6.2 yards per carry is what he's averaged throughout the year. He's got an explosive run or two in him every game. Hopefully he breaks it into the end zone, and this pays off. That's where I'm at with Herbert. But tell me about Mooney.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of a longer shot play just for the sake of a big tournament. We know he's a deep play threat, and the offense has been trending up. The passing game's looking better, but my thoughts here kind of were I was just looking through the Bears' schedule, and you would probably know this more than I would, but they haven't had a whole lot of opposing offenses to push them a lot. They've played some kind of mediocre offenses, and the thought was just if Miami is humming like they look like they are right now, that offense looks explosive. They put up some points. Maybe this is the week where we get Darnell Mooney targets, downfield looks, where the Bears have to throw the ball around a little more. I just kind of looking back through their games, they've been able to run their offense a lot of weeks, and maybe this is the week where they fall behind a little bit to Miami. So that's kind of my thought there. He's due a big touchdown, right? Like give us a 45-yard Darnell Mooney touchdown.
Yeah, I mean they got the score run up on them a little bit in Dallas last week, and they still kind of stuck to their philosophy. And it almost seemed like at some point, I mean, and they were in the game until the fourth, somewhere in the fourth quarter, there was the, fumble return for a touchdown, and that sort of ended it. But there was, the game flow of that game, they kind of just kept running their offense. So it is interesting. I'm wondering if Chase Claypool, how many snaps he's going to see, if it's 10, okay. If it's 20, great. If it's 30, whoa, okay, let's do this. Right. I don't think it's going to be 30, but does that open Mooney up a little bit more, right? Like that's the hope, is that, you have another legitimate wide receiver on the field that teams have to respect. Mooney's kind of struggled in his own right a little bit, but we know he's got to have past history of success. And so you're hoping that maybe he can show that out. So good stuff on that. I agree with you. That's a weird week. It's a weird slate, but here's the thing. Everybody's playing on the weird slate, right? Just because I don't love this. I've made other lineups I like better throughout the weeks. That is what it is. I don't like this one as much, but everybody has the same set of players, right? So that's everybody has the same degree of difficulty, I guess is what I'm saying. So I wouldn't feel too bad if you don't love the lineup that you put together, but I like this enough. Let's move on to Survivor. So last week was I picked second last week, but because I wasn't here, I gave Lester the Eagles because you had already taken the Eagles. So I thought, well, that way I'm not competing against anything here. Why did you take the Dolphins last week? And you got it, but why did you take the Dolphins last week?
Snuck it out. They were playing the Lions. That's why. So it's a profitable strategy. If you need a win, pick a team against the Lions. Right. They've got some parts of their team they're improving, but that defense is horrible. They're firing coaches. Pick teams against the Lions.
It's a good basic philosophy. So this week, it's an odd week, so I get to go first. I don't love this, right? So an obvious choice would be the Chiefs because they've got a high line. I already used the Chiefs, and I lost with the Chiefs, by the way. That is awful. The Thursday game where the Eagles played the Texans would have been great. I just took the Eagles, and it's on Thursday, so that doesn't count. I do have the Bills still. That's a 10.5 point spread, but they're on the road in a divisional game. That kind of violates all philosophy there. And so I'm already like, oh man, what do I do here? And so for me, it's two games that I'm deciding between. It's the Bengals at home against the Panthers. They're 7.5 point favorites, or it's the Patriots at home against the Colts, and they're 5 point favorites. But I already used the Patriots, and I took a strike. So you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
I cannot believe I've already taken 3 strikes here. So for me, I don't really have a choice. I think the only choice for me is the Bengals. I'm sorry if that's what you were going to go to take your favorite football team this week, but that's what I'm left with. I don't have any other options unless I want to burn the Bills, but it's on the road in a divisional game, and I just don't like that. So I'm gonna take the Bengals here.
Yeah, as a Bengals fan, I think I'm shattered a little bit, so my confidence is probably lower than yours is. But I was thinking about them as far as the survivor pool goes, and you're probably not going to feel great about picking them against any of their division opponents the rest of the year. I mean, Browns games and Steelers games, they've already lost those teams this year. Those are always tight games. So this is one of your best remaining options for sure at home against the Panthers. So they've got a ton of injuries, like Ross was mentioning earlier. They lost Chidobe Awuzie at cornerback, which he didn't get the respect he deserved around the league, but he is one of the best corners in the league, and it's going to be a huge hit to them. They're waiting to get DJ Reader back on the line. They've got a bye week next week. The Bengals do. This is like all hands on deck, like scrape out a win. We don't care if it's 13-10 kind of mode. Like they just need a win this week and kind of lick their wounds during the bye. So it could be a little worrisome at times in this game, but you've got to hope that Burrow pulls out a win here at home. So it's a solid pick, especially if you don't want to burn the Bills.
All right. What about you?
I'm just going to take the easy out here, and I'm going to take the Chiefs.
Okay.
Last I checked, we're still kind of waiting on Tannehill's status. I still think they'll take care of business here. So they've got the biggest spread. I think it's up over 10, right? 12.5. So still waiting on the news who the Titans quarterback is. And we've talked about the Titans. They certainly make things interesting, a lot of games, but I'll take my chances with the Chiefs, and I'll live to play another day, hopefully.
Yeah, well, of course, we're going to live to play the whole year because that's how we set it up. Because I already have 3 strikes, and this is like maybe we get a whole inning. If I have 9 strikes, maybe I'll just stop picking, right? Like,
Right.
you got 3 strikeouts, I'm out. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We've used up both, like, there are 3 icons that are used at this point, right? So we've both picked the Chiefs, we've both picked the Eagles, and what's the other team? And
Rams.
the Rams. We both picked the Rams.
We both got a Rams win. That's surprising.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I have I cannot believe that I have an X on the Chiefs. That was against the Colts. I mean, there's just no way.
I think that ended most people's survivor pools very early. So.
It's so brutal. It's so brutal. But what are you going to do? So survivor pool, good luck if you're still playing. We're going to play it all year, and we're going to see how this goes out in our competition. But I don't think you're going to get your 3rd strike. I think I could get a 4th strike here, but I'm pretty hopeful that Burrow can hammer it home. So that's survivor. We'll take out the board here. We've done that part. So let's open it up to fantasy stuff. So we're about, this is the halfway point of the schedule, right? Most fantasy leagues don't play in the last week. They don't play week 18. So week 17. So we're over halfway for sure done of the regular season and halfway done of the overall here. So what's the big stuff happening right now in fantasy land? And if those of you that are following along, you got any fantasy questions, pop them in the chat, start, sit, stuff, whatever. We'll get into it here, but let's hear it.
Yeah, I do see we have one question if you want to throw that up here in a minute. But really the big thing on the Sit Start podcast this week for us was going through all these trades. So just trying to figure out some of these backfields that saw running backs moved around, stuff like that. So there's a lot to sort through right now. I've got my eye on like Jeff Wilson going to the Dolphins as the backup to Raheem Mostert. I think there are a lot of leagues where you could pick him up if he was dropped. Because he knows that system in Miami, and there's not much behind Mostert. We know Mostert's been hurt in the past. So, that's kind of one we were looking at. We spent a lot of time talking about Chase Claypool, actually, to the Bears, just because I've always been fascinated with Chase Claypool. So, it's been kind of sorting through a lot of trade stuff. And then we do have some running backs coming back this week from injury. Cordell Patterson, like I mentioned, I think with the state of running backs this week, with all the injuries, the bye weeks, he's instantly an RB2 if you need him. He might play a little bit of a limited role, but they play that really bad Chargers run defense. Cordell Patterson's been good on limited snaps before, so even if he only plays like 40%, I think he can still pay off. And then James Conner comes back from injury this week. We'll see how much he plays. I think, Benjamin's played well enough where maybe it's a little bit of a split as Conner works back. But again, I think the theory of this week is running back is rough. If you need to play James Conner, we know he's a touchdown threat. Get him in there. There are worse options. So we're kind of scraping by this week at running back because it's rough out there.
Well, talk about scraping by. Ryan's got a question here. He's in running back purgatory this week, half PPR. He wants to know Tyler Algier, Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson. So he's got both Washington backs or Darrell Henderson, which oh, buddy. I actually dropped Darrell Henderson. I wasn't playing him. I needed the spot. I actually picked up Justin Fields because if nothing else, I need to play him next week for Joe Burrow.
Yep.
And he's definitely been trending up, and it just feels like a guy that you need to have on your roster, because you don't want him on your competitor's roster, if nothing else. So I picked up Fields and just thought, well, this is the guy, this is the weak spot. It's Terrell Henderson. So I actually cut him, and I kept Robinson. So that's part of my point, is I've had two of these guys. So I have Henderson below Robinson in terms of long term, but I don't know what you think in terms of this week.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, Henderson has not produced this year. Nobody in the Rams backfield has. So we're kind of chasing around all these different options. But if you totaled up all the Rams running backs, they're not doing anything anyway. So I totally understand getting sick of waiting around for Henderson. In this situation here, like in a vacuum, I actually think it would be Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, but starting both of them on your same team just sounds awful. JD McKissic is out this week, and that's actually kind of big. We've seen it be a three-way split, and Gibson actually, since Robinson came back, has been kind of efficient. He's been catching the ball. I think it actually is pretty good for him this week with McKissic out. So like, I want to tell Ryan start Gibson and Brian Robinson, but that's a tough pill to swallow, I feel like, for one single roster, So ranking wise, those are my two highest. I would probably take a shot on Algier over Darrell Henderson at this point. So I think I would do a slight lean, Brian Robinson and Tyler Algier. Algier's been pretty good. We know the Falcons are going to run the ball a ton. Like I mentioned with Patterson coming back, like I wouldn't expect him to dominate the snaps. So I think we still have Algier as maybe like the 60%, 50% lead back in this offense, and they have an exploitable matchup. So give me Robinson and Algier, but if you're maybe have more guts than I do, just go with both of the Washington running backs. But it feels bad.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I agree with you. Again, Nick at the pitcher list has the term "still ill," meaning that the guy's coming back, but you got to see it first. And so, Patterson's the type of guy that you could probably put back in there and give him his old role back and count on him. But why, right? Like, why would the Falcons do that if they don't have to, and if they feel good about Algier? So I agree with you. I'd probably actually lean towards, the exact same advice, because I don't know that you can do both Washington running backs and feel good about it. But I would do the same. I would do Algier and Robinson.
I will say with Patterson, he's one of those players that just like defies all logic. It feels like before he got hurt, he played 4 games and was RB6 or better twice. And like, he's just one of those players where you look at the numbers, you're like, he's going to regress. He can't keep doing this. And he's rushing, 17 times for 141 yards before he got hurt. So he's like, I don't know, when he's out there, he produces. So if you do need him in another situation, I would put him in as your RB2.
Such a weird thing that for years, it's like, how do we make Cordell Patterson be this? Like, he's so tantalizing. Look at all this. And then people be like, hey, we run him every once in a while. He's actually pretty good at it. Right. And then more and more. And then Belichick's like, no, I'm going to like hand the ball off to him. Right. And then he was in Chicago and they did that a little bit, but not as much as they should have. And then Arthur Smith's like, no, dude, I had a guy that kind of looked like this and Derrick Henry, and I'm just going to just feed him the ball. That's just what I'm going to do. He's a running back. It's kind of insane. So
it's such a weird, just that whole Atlanta offense and that whole situation is very interesting. So every week it's tough trying to rank these players.
Yeah. I was at the game last week, and they're just different. They just look different, and boy, they half full stadium. Like, just such a sad, in the first place in the division. What do you got to do? Come on, Falcons fans, get out there. Pretty sad. But Kendrick S, is Fields the safe start this week? Might be windy in Chicago. Ross was saying earlier that beautiful day, thought the wind was calm. It seems like the wind angle might be overblown. Bad pun. So I don't know that I'm worried about the wind. And plus, the reason why you want to start Justin Fields in fantasy is that he gives you that amazing floor in the running game. And the runs have been, a philosophical shift from Luke Getsy. They clearly said, like, we are going to have designed quarterback runs. And he's had that floor make him not only like relevant, but viable. Like, he's a guy that now you're seeing ranked pretty highly in terms of quarterback rankings. So where's Fields ranked for you this week in the quarterback rankings?
He's QB 10. So he's right in the starting range. I mean, He's been a top 10 QB each of the last 3 weeks, fantasy wise. And the last 2 weeks, I mean, at Dallas and at New England, that's not an easy couple opponents. So he's running the ball like crazy. And like you said, yeah, even if it's windy, he's running the ball. So I wouldn't worry about that much. And isn't it always windy in Chicago? I don't know. I'm
well, Windy City is not about the actual wind. It's about, talkers, BSers, right?
Yeah.
But
poor joke.
Yeah, well, I said overblown, right? So there you go. Where do you have Burrow?
Right above Fields, QB9. So
okay.
It's honestly, I think going forward, we just have to look at pass rushes against the Bengals. If there is, I mean, that's why the Browns have just been such a bad matchup for the Bengals for a few years now. Because they are this year not good against the run, but they have a couple good pass rushers. That's the opposite of what the Bengals offense wants to do. So I really think our main focus when playing Bengals players is, does the other team have a pass rush that can just destroy the game plan? And if they do, then we're worried. Carolina, like, they're kind of a mixed bag because they have Brian Burns, who is awesome. But the rest of the defense isn't that strong. So if you just look at like their pressure rate, it's not that high overall. So as long as I can slow down Burns, I think the Bengals offense is going to be just fine.
Andrew, swipe right. I love it. I should make that my motto for changing the lines. Swipe right. Make it.
Yeah.
Not only just take the over, like take the alternate over. That's fun. I did a bunch of that last year, where I would play with the sliders to get better payouts for lines and totals that I felt good about. So if I thought like, hey, Chiefs, they're favored, 3.5 points. I think they're going to win this, by quite a bit. I'm going to slide this over to 6.5. I'm going to slide this over to even like, 9.5, because I think they're going to win by 10 or something like that. And you can really like up your payout. I mean, obviously it's harder to hit, right? But if you think that they're going to win by more than what they have and you feel really good about the line, sometimes go in and slide it and see if you can play with it and get a bigger payout. And then if like the over-unders, they don't it's harder to hit. The over-under set where it's 50-50. So that is what it is. They're going to make their money off of the the vig there. But like, if you really feel good about, I just think there's a good potential that both of these defenses are terrible. The offense are playing well. There's just going to be a ton of points. This thing could be in the 70s. I'm going to slide this thing up. I'm going to take a 4x payout. It's there. But you got to be pretty strong, in your feeling that that's going to happen. But that's a fun way to kind of spice up an over-under line that you feel really good about, and you think, I think I can take this over a little bit too. And I sometimes I'll even hedge that. Like, I'll take the over, and then I'm going to slide it, and I'm going to bet over here on the super over, and then hopefully I'm not wrong and lose 2 bets. But splitting it up that way, even if you hit it and you don't hit the super over, you even yourself out, or you've covered yourself by hedging it. But anyway, I did that a ton last year.
Yeah, I mean, we get legal sports betting on January 1st in Ohio, so I'm anxiously looking forward to it. I've made some bets in the past sneaking over to Indiana, because it's legal over there, but not too far away. But I'm very much looking forward to it. I remember, kind of the same as you. Like, one of my better wins in the past was like this is a long time ago, but like a Steelers Super Bowl where I think I bet like the range of the win. You know what I mean? Like, getting kind of a little more specific on these bets, because honestly, if you're wanting to play the spread or the over under, you probably need to be out there like right when the bets come out, shopping different sports books, trying to get the best line, because like you said, by the time we get to this time Sunday, it's kind of like 50-50 shot. And then you're just losing the rake that the casino's taken, or sports book. So I agree. Get a little interesting with them. I also don't like parlaying like 5 different bets, but maybe tweaking one of the lines or tweaking something like that is a good way to go about it.
I went to a Saints Rams game when they were both really good. I was down in that area, New Orleans area, and at this time I didn't have a book. There was no book in Iowa, and so but there's tons of books in Louisiana and Mississippi, and so because that's where I was in Mississippi, I think. Whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The ticket cost me money, obviously, to go to this game. I got a nice ticket. It was really good seats. I thought, you know what? I'm either going to make it a really expensive ticket, or I'm going to like try to, make this a cheap ticket. And I put in a bet on the over. and had like I think the book had an alternate line. And I was like, I just think there's going to be a ton of points in this one. So I put it up there, and being in a stadium, having an over bet on a high scoring game was one of the most fun things, one fun experiences that I've ever had. It was so much fun to cheer
Yeah.
for all those touchdowns. And the game was insane. Like it was just back and forth. And it was just like, bring it, keep scoring, guys. Like, this is great. So that's like my favorite betting experience, just because I was there to see it, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, well, before we finish up, anything else that's going on? If I know it's you got to grind it out, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm looking back on I had a really tough loss. I lost like the worst team in the league last week. My team didn't show up, and their team did. It just happens, right? Like, I have the most points scored against in my league. That sucks. But I'm looking back at my team, and I'm like, man, I went all out for that Kenneth Walker pickup. And that was the right thing to do. You know, I don't think there's a better pickup so far this year. So every once in a while, you got to stay on it every week. It just doesn't feel like there's been much happening over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time of season where everyone was excited at the start. We're not quite at the playoff push yet. Yeah, this is like the middle where people start to it's a grind for sure. So just keep sticking with it. Keep adding and subtracting from the end of your roster where you can. But we are kind of like in a holding pattern right now for that stretch run for the playoffs. So I would say one thing to note is that Mark Andrews looks awfully doubtful on Monday night. I believe that's Monday night. I would say if you need a tight end, Isaiah Likely is probably a nice pickup. I know we're kind of still waiting for Mark Andrews news, but doubtful usually means they're not going to play. So if you need a tight end out there, I think Isaiah Likely is a nice home run swing.
I actually have Mark Andrews in that league, and he's a Monday night game, right? Yep. And so I'm playing a little bit here in that. Well, Taysom Hill was also available, but anyway, I don't think that he just got picked up this morning. So this took away my strategy. I really don't have the spot to give. Like I'll have to cut somebody that I don't want to cut. And so if I do for Isaiah Likely, it's because I'm going to have a chance to win. But I think right now I'm going to see how the day goes, because he doesn't have anybody playing tomorrow night. And so the whole matchup will be decided by the end of tonight's game. And so I'm kind of just wait, I'm going to gamble. I'm going to wait and see. And my league allows you to make moves until like 5 minutes before the game. So I'm going to wait, but it's not because I don't think Andrews is going to play. You're doubtful, you're out. They have a bye week next week. He's not going to play. It's going to be Isaiah Likely. I just don't have the spot. I'm going to have to cut somebody.
And that's not a bad position to play that game with. I mean, tight end's usually pretty low stakes anyway. I mean, other than Mark Andrews types, we're talking about 6-7 points. So again, this is the time of the year. If you're in good shape and you're not fighting and clawing for that last playoff spot, it makes sense to kind of save some roster spots for some higher upside players.
We got one more question. MVS or Hollins or Marshall Jr.?
Man, this is a tough one. There are kind of pluses and minuses for all these players. I think I'd probably go Mac Hollins, actually. It looks like Waller's not going to play again. So that kind of limits it to him and Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow there. Jacksonville's a nice matchup. Hollins has been pretty good lately. I mean, he's had 64 and 44 yards receiving the last 2 weeks. MVS, I just worry with Kadarius Toney coming over and trade. They say they're going to play him. Maybe that receiving core gets squeezed a little more in Kansas City, and it's already pretty squeezed with all those options. And then I know there are a lot of people that love Terrace Marshall. He had a nice uptick last week, 87 yards receiving. Robbie Anderson's gone. He's got a huge opportunity. Bengals secondary's banged up. I'm not quite ready to trust Marshall already. We've only seen 1 week of real production. So Hollins feels like the safer play there. I don't know why this keeps happening with Hollins. It feels like they should get the ball to other players for the Raiders, but they keep giving them the ball. So I'd say we keep riding it.
In standard scoring, would you play Devin Singletary, Swift, or Chris Godwin?
Standard scoring, I'd probably go with Godwin. Swift, man, they say Swift's going to be limited again today. I
stay away from that, I think.
Yeah, in a PPR league, I think you can feel better about it. Like last week, he played 55% of the snaps, had 5 catches. He scored a touchdown. Like he's kind of like Cordell Patterson, where he's still efficient, even if he's on lesser touches. So in a PPR league, I'd still throw Swift out there in most leagues, but standard, when you have Godwin as the other option, I would go Godwin. Godwin is due a blow up one of these weeks. We just need this Buccaneers offense to get on track.
Yeah, get in the end zone, Godwin. All right.
I've got him on my home team. I'm waiting for it as well. It's coming. I promise it's coming.
All right, man. Final thoughts from you before we get out of here?
No, I think this is one of the rougher bye weeks.
Yeah, it's a super bye week. 6 spots,
quantity.
6 spots.
Yeah, so it should get a little better for your teams going forward. Like I said kind of earlier, if your RB2 spot is weak, it's okay. Everyone's got a weak RB2 spot. Just make sure you got strong receivers, strong flex, hopefully a bell cow back. But running back's going to get better as we go forward.
Yep. All right. Good stuff, man.
Cool.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us this week. As always, bring your questions. We'll get through them. Let's go dominate. Let's go make some money. Let's go win some games and put ourselves in the playoffs for fantasy stuff. So we'll see you next week, guys.